go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Masters Fantasy Podcast, brought to you by MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. My name is Jonathan, the Commish here at Masters. Joining us today, CEO and owner of Masters Fantasy Leagues, John Beast. What's up? How you doing today?
I'm doing really great, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Real good. Excited to talk to you. It's a Saturday afternoon, watching my Ohio State Buckeyes do what I expected them to do today. Very excited about that. But a lot of stuff going on, man. A topic that we just had to talk about. Right before we jump into it, though, just wanted to pass something along. Very busy Saturday here at Masters. All the weekly leagues are almost full for tonight. A bunch of signups for the Guillotine Leagues for next Wednesday pouring in. The playoff leagues just got posted. Playoffs are right around the corner. So a lot of stuff happening, a lot of leagues filling. If you're looking for a place to play, MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. With that said, let's jump into the topic, man. I've been dying to talk to you about this. Odell Beckham Jr., first he gets traded to the Rams. News comes out today. Robert Woods goes down with a torn ACL. Just been kind of all over the place with Odell Beckham. His value, like how much I think he's worth. This has been going up and down the last couple of days. Wanted to talk to you, John, get your initial reaction, initial thoughts on the whole Odell Beckham, Los Angeles Rams saga. Floor is all yours, my man.
All right, my man. First of all, I need everybody to understand that Odell Beckham Jr. is my favorite player. I've loved Odell Beckham Jr. We've heard stuff about him being a diva and this and that. I've been watching Odell in Cleveland for the last 3 years. I've never seen a single example of that.
Me neither.
You know, until the video came out, nothing. He seems to be a great team player. He was my favorite player in fantasy football. I mean, he's a great wide receiver. I've got no problems with Odell Beckham Jr. I want to see him do well. If you ask me who's a better player, I would tell you that Odell Beckham Jr. is a better wide receiver than Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. Having said that, he had to go. There's no way around it. He could not be on the team because Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Cleveland Browns, period. But I still think that everybody's looking at the Odell Beckham Jr. situation wrong. And everybody's missing the player that's going to benefit the most. You know, with Robert Woods going down, you know, you got to look at Van Jefferson being the field stretcher. You got to look at Cooper Kupp as probably the best wide receiver in fantasy football this year. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to get a great quarterback in Matt Stafford. Everything's moving up. Everything's looking great for all three of those players. Which one would I take? I think you're all looking at the wrong direction. You're looking at and you're not looking in the wrong direction, looking at the wrong team. The player that's going to benefit the most from this is Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a player I'd be looking to get. You know, we can sit here and say, you know, he hasn't done anything. Last year he had 20 targets, 14 receptions. But the fact of the matter is he averaged over three fantasy points per reception last year, or per target. Not per reception, it was probably 4 or 5. This year, it's even higher. He's only has 18 targets, but he's got 15 catches for 200 or 300 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 3.5 points per target. And now with Odell gone, he's probably the number 1 receiver in Cleveland right now. And I think that's a player you should be targeting. I think that's a player you should be going to get.
Yeah.
And he's on every single one of my fantasy teams. Every single one of my dynasty teams. You go take a look. He was the number 1 receiver coming into college football. He did not have a great college career. He got to Cleveland. He's done on extremely limited opportunities. He's killed it.
Yeah, and you had dropped him a couple weeks ago, and I seen you went back and bid him. You outbid me those weeks. I tried to pick up Peoples-Jones. You know, I agree with you, man. I think he is one of the sneaky guys in this whole trade that not enough people are talking about. I would pump the brakes just a little bit. Something I think about with this Cleveland offense quite a bit is, you know, Baker Mayfield's took 2 top 5 wide receivers in fantasy football and made them irrelevant. I think a lot of people overlook that too often. I just don't believe it that Landry and Beckham are both washed up at 28, 27 years old when all the other elite wide receivers in the NFL, the DeAndre Hopkins, you know, et cetera, continue to produce. So I would pump the brakes there. I do think he has a ton of sneaky upside and can probably get him pretty cheap right now. I'll also add this. If you ask me for this season, for sure, after the Woods news, I'd much rather have Odell Beckham Jr. this season than I would Donovan Peoples-Jones.
And you probably are correct there. I would too. Do not misunderstand me. I would also. It's going to take a first-round pick to get Odell Beckham Jr. And that's hard. That's a hard trigger to pull. I'm telling you, I couldn't do it. I mean, I just tried to pick him up, get Odell, and before this show started, I tried to get Odell in all the Dynasty leagues. I failed every time. I'm not willing to give a first-round pick for him. I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, and I had
T. Higgins. Is Odell better than T. Higgins? I think he is. Or are you willing to give up T. Higgins to get him and find out?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm not 100% sure what to do. I wanted to bring this up. How much more excited are you for Monday Night Football now?
I'm a lot more excited. I really am. I want to see Odell freaking kill it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think here's what I think is going to happen. Like right now, Odell's kind of in the middle, but after that Monday night game, his stock's either going to fly up or shoot back down a little bit. So you're kind of taking a gamble right now. I'm with you, a second rounder for sure. I don't think I'd give him up for a second rounder. I do think there still may be some guys out there who are willing to do it. So I'm just recommending, if you're watching this, go in your dynasty leagues, offer a second rounder for Odell. I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially on a team that's making a run. Just want to point that out.
You know what? And this was, I'm in about 7 dynasty leagues. I'm not in 30 or 40 of them. And Odell happened to be on very strong teams in all the leagues that I was in. He wasn't on, 0-7 teams or 2-6 teams or 2-8 teams. Another thing, I want to just go back to Donovan Peoples-Jones real quick. He is the leading points receiver on the Browns right now for wide receivers. And it's not particularly close. And both Jarvis and Odell had almost double the targets that Peoples-Jones has, and he has, 150% of the points. He's 20 points ahead of both of them.
Yeah, a ton of upside with Donovan Peoples-Jones still for sure. I think Landry still the one this season, but we'll see how that. Just have to see how that plays out. I did write down a couple things I wanted to ask you. And initially, when the Odell trade happened, my first thoughts was Cooper Kupp, value down. Add the Robert Woods news in now. I actually think from a week ago when it was just Kupp and Woods, I think Cooper Kupp stock up as of today. Would you agree?
I would agree. It is so hard because I know we're all looking the last year. We're looking the last 8 games, and Cooper Kupp's the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. He's number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. He had a great year last year. You want the truth? The truth is, I think Odell's a better receiver.
Really?
And I don't really think it's particularly close. Now, having said that, I would still take Cooper Kupp, but Odell's. Hey, that video, he was wide open. He was wide open. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. Put Matt Stafford throwing the ball. Maybe it's different. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, overnight, the last couple hours too, I've been thinking about it, getting ready for this show. I've kind of wanted to say the same thing. Like, I think Odell may be that, but I've been scared to say it. Like, because I feel like the fantasy community, like nobody's really ready to hear that. A healthy Odell, if this guy's healthy, between the two, I think it's really close. The only reason I give Kupp the edge, obviously, he's already been there with Stafford, number 1 in the NFL right now. So Beckham's the new guy coming in. And I didn't think he had a chance to take over Cooper Kupp as the one with Robert Woods there. But now that it's just them two both on the outside, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out for sure.
It really is. And I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's going to overtake Cooper Kupp. I don't. I truly don't. But I'll say this, we've been doing dynasty leagues, since 2010.
Yeah.
And the most valuable dynasty player I've ever seen was Calvin Johnson. He was like a one-man team. And then after Calvin Johnson, there was a couple years at Zeke Elliott. Didn't really matter what else on the team. It was an orphan team. It had Zeke Elliott. It would sell. Hey, the same can be said for Odell Beckham Jr. For a couple years there, He was the number one asset in dynasty football until he came to Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And then the last thing I want to touch on, you said that you think Donovan Peoples-Jones, the biggest deal out of all this trade. For me, I'm going to say dynasty football, the guy I got my eye on the most, the biggest benefactor in this whole trade for me is going to be Van Jefferson. Young kid, a kid that was looking electric. And I was just thinking back, Robert Woods has got involved later in the season, but there was a time early in the season I was watching Rams games and I'm like, where is Robert Woods? Van Jefferson looked like the 2 in that offense. And I think as of today, right now, because we don't know what's going to happen with Beckham. There's a lot of speculation. Yeah, if he could be healthy, all of that remains to be seen because he was a dud here in Cleveland. So if that continues on that Rams offense, you automatically slide Van Jefferson in as a number 2 wide receiver on maybe one of the best offenses in the NFL. I think he's very, very underrated right now. And I'll just add this too. Robert Woods is 29 years old. He'll be coming back next year at 30. And as much as I like Robert Woods, to me, Van Jefferson, outside of Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver to own in dynasty football, even over Donovan Peoples-Jones right now.
I got to tell you something else. I just thought of this as I'm sitting here talking to you. I give you another player to compare to Odell Beckham to. Back, not that long ago, 2007, 2008, I can't remember the exact year. Randy Moss went from Minnesota to Oakland, and there was 2 or 3 years there. He did nothing. I mean, literally zero.
Yeah, nothing.
He got traded to the Patriots, and he had 24 touchdowns, the number 1 player for fantasy. Maybe that's what's going to happen to Odell. I really just want to see Odell do really well. Yeah. I was really happy he was here in Cleveland. I was so excited he was here in Cleveland. I'm glad he was here. I'm sorry that he's gone. I just want to see Odell do well.
It's okay. Last question. I'm going to bring a little bit of heat with this because you said you offered a second. I know a lot of your teams are in first place in your dynasty leagues, 7-2, 8-1. Right now, no way you're going to trade that late first round pick for Odell after everything you just said.
I'm not going to. It seems I'm just not going to.
Just can't pull the trigger.
I just can't pull the trigger. You're right. And I may regret it. Hey, if you wanted to make that decision, that's just a tough argument. It's a tough trigger to pull.
It is. I'm with you.
I mean, because if Odell goes off, if Odell is as good as I hope that he is, he's going to cost you more than first next week. But right now, you can definitely go get him for a first.
All right. And one last question. I just thought of it with the Robert Woods, because Odell wasn't scheduled to play Monday. Robert Woods, torn ACL, news is out. Odell Beckham's playing Monday. Redraft, start or sit this week.
Start.
I'm with you.
You know what? I'll tell you another thing. If you're in and most redraft league, trading probably is over. But if it's not, and if I'm a 2-7 team and I'm trying to make a run, I'd trade a lot for him. Yeah. There's no reason not to, because he may be. I mean, it really is. It's a true shot in the dark, but you're betting on a player that's carried teams in the past.
Yeah, and Odell, a guy I picked up quite a bit in the 6th round. Been a big disappointment for me. I've been reluctant to drop him the last couple weeks. I also couldn't pull the trigger on that. I'm glad I didn't. Across the board, I'm pretty much starting him in every league this week. See how it goes.
I did find him on one, and we're in 21. I think we're in 21 leagues together, and I did find him on the waiver wire in one, and I did get him.
Dang, I was late to the party.
Yeah,
so good stuff as always, John Beast. You guys at home, thanks so much for watching. If you could hit the like and subscribe button, maybe tell us your thoughts on Odell Beckham. Are you sitting him or starting him this week? How much are you willing to pay in a dynasty league? As always, if you're looking for a place to play dynasty football, over 700 leagues and counting, never folded a single one. MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. Any last words, John Beast?
No, Donovan Peoples-Jones, go get him.